Does this mean that private label is inherently bad? Okay, my answer is no. But why is it bad? Keep on watching. Hello, my gorgeous ones. Welcome to Alicia Budget Beauty. My name is Alicia. Here on my channel, I love affordable fashion and beauty. I do hauls, tutorials, reviews, all sorts of fun stuff. So if that sounds good to you, please subscribe and stick around. You guys, today has been a long time coming. This has been one of my most requested videos, requested topics, and I've been meaning to do it for a long time. And that is a video on private label makeup. Now, I've mentioned private label makeup several times in my videos. I think most specifically in my declutter eyeshadow palette videos. I've often said things like, I got this before I understood private label, or, you know, this palette is really good. There's nothing wrong with it. I'm just not incredibly interested in obtaining more private label makeup. And I've said things like, private label does not equate evil. It does not equate unethical or bad. It's just what it is, which if you want to know what it is and why I kind of took a step back away from it, and why a lot of people who know about it in the makeup community feel a certain way about it, keep on watching. Okay, you guys, so right off the bat, first up, what is private label makeup? Well, it's not just makeup. You can have private label food, private label clothing, home decor. As a matter of fact, some of your most frequented retailers that you shop from all the time, like Target, Walmart, Macy's, all have private label products in it. So private label essentially is a manufacturer that creates the product, and then they allow another business, brand, conglomerate to sell the products that they make and then put their own label and name on it. That is essentially what private label is. Think of it like this. It's like wholesale, you know, like when you want to buy something in bulk and they make it, they mass produce it, and anyone can buy it in bulk, but then you're just allowed to sell it as if you made it. Okay, so that is essentially what private label is. So private label makeup. Now, how did I start understanding what it is? How did I start recognizing it myself? Let me tell you about that. All right, so whenever I was new to the beauty influencer creator world, when I decided to, I always loved makeup and beauty, but when I decided to start, you know, posting about it, I was mainly drugstore. I had higher end things. I was a MAC girl in my late teens, early 20s. I liked Too Faced and a few off the beaten, like I liked ColourPop before everyone else liked ColourPop. But I also liked ColourPop whenever they were pretty much private label. They're not anymore. We'll get to that in a minute. But whenever I started my Instagram and I started just seeing more makeup brands shared, it opened up this whole new world to me. And all of a sudden I was starting to see indie makeup, and not just your household names, not your drugstore, not your Too Faced and your Urban Decay and your IT Cosmetics, the things that you see in Ulta. I was seeing these random names, like, I'm making this up, this is not a name, but you know, Ally Joe Cosmetics or Blossoming Beauty Cosmetics, you know, these names I've never seen before. And everything just looked so pretty. And so it was like a whole new world to me. So I just started consuming, eating it up. I was like, oh, I want to try all these brands. So I was buying all kinds of makeup, right? Unbeknownst to me, buying a lot of private label makeup. Now, if you're not seasoned and know about this, you don't know. You just think this is this brand's makeup. They have the corner on this formula. It belongs to them. and oh, it's so good. And then you share it with everyone. You're like, this formula is amazing. Not realizing that 20 other brands have the exact same formula, sometimes even the same exact packaging, just with a different name on it. So when I really became aware of this is about 2 years ago. I thought I wanted to start my own beauty brand. I was like, how hard can this be? Like, I love makeup. I can start a brand. I had this whole concept and idea. It was going to be called Norma Jean Beauty after my Mimi. I had the whole logo picked out. And then I had to start looking into manufacturers, like, well, how do you develop your palettes? Like, where do you even go to do that? So I started researching it. Then I came upon Aura Beauty, Aura Cosmetics. It is an across the seas Chinese makeup manufacturer. And I was like, oh, awesome. Like, this looks really, really good. I can get stuff at a really great price. And I decided to order a bunch of single shadows, which I just want to show you I'm wearing today. This is just the point that private label does not mean bad. Okay, the quality can be really, really good, but let me show you the palette. And I'm missing 2 shades in here, but all of these were shades that I picked out and just wanted to test the formula out. And I was like, these are really, really good. And they're like, 90 something cents or something like that. Maybe it was cheaper than that. But I also ordered lipsticks. So we had, one's a gloss, one's a matte lipstick. I ordered a whole bunch. This is what they looked like. Then as a freebie, they sent me these highlighters. Like, oh, you could also have highlighters in your beauty collection. Well, then they offered a person that would be like your own personal assistant with this manufacturer to help you, now do you want to create your packaging? And they send you examples. Well, some things happened where I was like, I don't know if I want to start a beauty brand or not. I started noticing the same packaging that I was seeing on this private label manufacturer from all these other brands. I also started to notice the same formula. If I bought a palette, I would go and look at like this palette that I have. I'm like, that's the same formula. These are the same lipsticks. These are the same shades. Like, oh, okay, I get it. A lot of these makeup brands have the same thing. The only thing different is their branding, their logos, their packaging, and then how they market, and then their pricing, which that's gonna come up in a minute. Pricing is one of the things that determines if I think private label makeup is ethical or not. So we'll get to that in a minute. Stay tuned for that. So I do want to show you guys an example of same packaging. Same packaging, the shape is different. This palette is off of Amazon, and I actually do not have this in my declutter. I do have this one in my declutter. This one I don't. Like, even though I know it's private label, the formula is really, really good. It's a really nice neutrals with berry tones palette. So I decided to keep this. The shimmers in here are great. I think this costs like $9 or $10 off of Amazon. The name is Imagique Pro Professional Cosmetics. Okay, super cheap. This one was a different one. I don't want to say the name. I don't know if this brand is still around or not. I just don't want to put them on blast, but I was like, oh, okay. They use the same, packaging, and I started to notice a similarity between the formulas. This one has some pressed glitters in it, which I don't need. So this has always been in my declutter basket, just saving it for this video. These are those things I started to pick up on is, okay, so what's gonna make these different? Again, it's how they market and their pricing. Here is another example. I don't have another one to show you, but this was a brand that early on when I started on Instagram, I was like, oh my gosh, I want PR. I want them to send me stuff. It was very exciting. And I thought this color story was really fun and bright and vibrant, if you want neons. And I did buy this, and then they sent me other things in PR, and I was like, I've made it, yeah. Okay, then I started to see this exact packaging with a different name being sold on ads and stuff on Instagram. And I was like, oh, I also noticed it was the exact same color story. So I realized sometimes these manufacturers will even have a set palette. The brand didn't even pick it out. It's like, here's the colors, here's the packaging. You buy all the palettes, put your name on it. This brand buys them all, puts their name on it. And they're competing with the exact same thing. It's not their own formula. And however they price it is the difference, right? So then it wasn't quite as special. These are two more. When I started seeing these crystalled, lip glosses, I was like, oh, those are so beautiful. That is one of a kind. It's not one of a kind, okay? This is one of the most common, like you'll see these with so many like cheaper brands that just, they all have the same formula. They buy these crystalled, in bulk, and they sell them to you guys. This is another palette that I started realizing the formula. I was like, I've seen those shades from the private label one I was looking into before I understood it all. And I was like, okay, yeah, I get it. All right, so does this mean that private label is inherently bad? Okay, my answer is no. But why is it bad? Keep on watching. All right, so essentially how this all works. Whenever a brand decides to get going, so many of them, including some that I really love, had to start somewhere. And they started with private label. Now, the thing is when they first started out, when you do private label, there's either the palettes that are already made with all of the shades and you just put your name on it, or you can pay a little bit more and choose your own shades, but they're like at this lower level. Or if you're gonna buy even more, then you pay for a little bit better quality, and so on and so forth. That's how it goes. It's the more palettes you buy, the more that you get to choose from in this pool of formulas. And then if you really start making money, or if you have it all up front, you can create your own formula with the lab that is your own. And then it really just belongs to you, and you're not necessarily considered private label anymore. Nobody else can go out and buy it and put their name on it. Or of course, if you hand press, do your own, like some indie do, then obviously they are not considered private label whatsoever. So where it becomes an issue is when you have a brand go in, buy something incredibly cheap for them, and then they put their name on it and they jack up the prices to an insane amount. What that does is that starts to drive up the price of other brands. They don't always know that this was private label, that brand A over here is selling this palette for $20. Brand B over here, same formula, private label, is selling theirs for $80. Formula may look lovely, it may perform amazing, but that starts to drive up the cost, especially, for indie makeup, to where it's almost unaffordable anymore. That's what's been happening lately in the indie brand community. I'm not trying to blow the whistle on brands today. I can tell you guys, big brands that used to be private label are ColourPop and Kylie Cosmetics. ColourPop now has their own lab. Like, they are so huge now. They've got so much money now. They have their own lab. They make their own stuff. Kylie Cosmetics, they used to use the same one. Seed was the name. Then Kylie was bought from Coty Cosmetics, which owns tons of things like Rimmel and all kinds of like higher end luxury makeup. So they have enough money to make their own formulas now too. So they're not anymore. But there are tons of indie brands out there that are passing off private label for a really insane price. Now, I own some private label brands still. And the reason why is, well, the formula is really, really good. And they took the effort to go pick out the colors. The formula is great. They did really well in their packaging. They market really well. They may be really, really kind people that own it, and they're just trying to get started where maybe they could formulate their own formula one day. And they're keeping the cost reasonable to where they're making a profit. They have to make some sort of profit, but they are not putting an insane amount onto the consumer that doesn't add up, where they're just basically taking advantage of an ignorant consumer that doesn't understand private label makeup. That is the difference between the two. Another thing to point out, you know, AliExpress, Alibaba, Temu is an example that I'm going to use here. And I've shown a ton of Temu on here. So many of the products on their makeup products are made in places like China. And now Temu does distribute out of the US, but some of their sources that they're getting their stuff from are from China. Not all of them, some of them. The prices on Temu are super cheap. And a lot of people ask, well, how do they do that? How do they keep their prices down? They must be abusing people. You know, I'm not here to debate that today. What they're not doing is jacking up those prices as if it's something like really hard to get a hold of so they can make it $15 instead of $2 and overcharging you. The reason why I know this is there are so many items on Temu that I have seen that I'm like, I have that in my collection already. I bought it from this indie brand that I found on Instagram and I paid 10 times what they're selling it on Temu for. And again, these brands have to make some profit before they can go in and formulate their own formulas. But I just want you guys to be aware and to do your research, and you guys have to decide, where does my money go to, and how much is the right amount to pay for something that a lot of different brands could be selling, and how much is just, well, this is too much. There's one indie brand in particular that I don't have all the evidence of yet. Like I said, I'm not trying to put brands on blast today. The rumor is, I've been told that they have private label. Again, not evil, not inherently bad, but they are selling their palettes for $80+. And people are paying for it that don't understand, that don't know that you could go get that exact same formula from another brand that got it from the same private label manufacturer that's selling it for $20. Maybe they just haven't done as good of marketing. And I just want you guys to be aware. Now you could ask the brand owner, is this private label? Where was this made? You know, if you want to dig that deep into it. Or you could just start really browsing different makeup brands and comparing formulas, really getting to know your own collection and realize like, oh, these are the same thing. There's lots of ways that you can start to detect it, because I can spot it usually from a mile away now. And I try to be careful, you know, and like I said, I've got a couple of brands that I love that I do know that sell private label makeup. One of them, she's so honest about it. She said, I've never hidden the fact that I sell private label. I'm not there yet, money-wise, where I can make my own formula. I hope to be there one day. But you know what? Her makeup is extremely affordable. She still makes a profit, but she's not gouging us. And she's not driving up the cost of indie makeup like some of the others. So, in conclusion, there is your dissertation on private label makeup. I think it's very interesting. You guys can do your own research. I'm sure there's tons of other videos out there that have covered this before. This is just the things that I have learned over the past couple of years, my own observations, talking to some brand owners, doing my own research. And ultimately, you guys have to decide where your money goes and if you think it's ethical or not. You guys let me know if this helped you in any kind of way. If you want me to do more informative videos like this, I love to research. I was an English major, writing major, so I mean, thesis papers were like my life. I did them for fun, so I do like researching. So you guys let me know what topics you might want to know more about. And as always, have fun shopping, budget and smart research shopping. Bye.